أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وصلى الله تعالى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Picking up from the legendary military ideologies to the legendary stories of the prophets Alayhi'Ssalam, with the era of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam's early prophethood or career of prophecy. Now, we do want to say that prior to him, we do have the era of Prophet Jesus. Isa or Yeshua, as he was called when he was alive, but never Jesus. Jesus is a made-up name, but for English. But the Prophet Muhammad, the one is everlasting of prayers, and one is who is everlastingly in the state of being praised. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, and this is from page number 378, Quran, Surah number 49, ayah number 13. Allah the Exalted said, Jalla Jalaluhu says, O mankind, we have created you from a male and a female and made you into nations and tribes that you may know one another. Verily, the most honorable of you in the sight of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is the believer who has taqwa, who has piety, who has the fear of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu alone, wanting to apply what He has commanded, being sufficed with little and preparing for the day of departure, meaning death. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu calls those who are pious and love Allah Jalla Jalaluhu much, perform all kind of righteous doing which He has ordained. Verily Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is all aware. Verily Jalla Jalaluhu is all knowing. The Quraysh would have none of this leveling of distinctions as it reflected upon their long inherited privileges. Accordingly, they organized a system of persecution in order to suppress the movement before it became firmly established. They decided that each family should take upon itself the task of stamping out the new faith on the spot. Each household tortured its own members or adherents or slaves who were supposedly to have connected themselves with the new faith, with the exemption of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi himself, who was protected by Abu Talib and his kinsmen, and Abu Bakr Siddiq and a few others who were either distinguished by their rank or possessed some influence among the Quraysh. All other converts were subjected to different sorts of torture. Some of them were thrown into prison, starved, and then flogged. The hill of Ramada, like the Ramada Inn, and the place called the Bata, thus became scenes of cruel torture. One day the Quraysh tried to induce the Prophet to discontinue his teaching of the new religion, which had sown discord among their people. Utbah ibn Rabi'ah was delegated to see the Prophet ﷺ and speak to him. Utbah said, O son of my brother, you are distinguished by your qualities, yet you have sown discord among our people and cast dissension in our families. You denounced our gods and goddesses, and you charge our ancestors with impiety. Now we are coming to make a proposition to you, and I ask you to think well before you reject it. I am listening to you, O father of Walid, said Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, O son of my brother, if by this affair you intend to acquire riches, honor, and dignity, we are willing to collect for you a fortune larger than is possessed by any one of us. We shall make you our chief, and we will do nothing without you. If you desire dominion, we shall make you our king, and if the demon which possesses you cannot be subdued, we will bring you doctors and give them riches until they cure you. When Utbah had finished his discourse, the Prophet ﷺ said, now listen to me, O father of Walid. I listened. He replied, I listen. He replied. The Prophet ﷺ recited to him the first 13 ayats of Surah Fussilat, which may be interpreted as follows: in the name of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, most beneficent, most merciful. Amim. These letters are one of the miracles of the Quran, and none but Allah Jalla Jalaluhu knows their complete meaning. A revelation from Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, the most beneficent, the most merciful, a book whereof the ayats are explained in detail, a Quran in Arabic for people who know, giving glad tidings of paradise to the one who believes in the oneness of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and fears Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, much abstaining from all kind of sins and evil deeds, and loves Allah Jalla Jalaluhu much, in performing all kinds of righteous deeds which He has ordained, and warning of punishment in the hellfire. And they say our hearts are under covering, screened from that to which you invite us, and in our ears is deafness, and between us and you is a screen. So work you on your way. Verily, we are working on our way. Excuse me. So, O Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon you. I am only a human being. Say, O Muhammad. This is still Quran. Surah number 41, ayahs number 1 through 13. Say Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam upon them, I am only a human being like you. It is inspired in me that your ilah, meaning your God, is one God. Therefore, take the straight path to Him with true faith, with true Islamic monotheism, not the Iblisi stuff, and obedience to Him, and seek forgiveness of Him. And woe to the mushrikeen, the polytheists, idolater, pagan, disbelieving Iblisis, and the oneness of Allah, those who worship others along with Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, or set up rivals or partners to Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, those who give not the zakah, and they are disbelievers in the hereafter. Truly those who believe in the oneness of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and in His Messenger Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, do righteous deeds as prescribed for them, will have an endless reward which will never stop. Paradise! That's what they'll have. Say, O Muhammad, do you verily disbelieve in Him who created the earth in 2 days, and you set up rivals in worship with Him? That is the Lord of the entire world. Mankind, demons, and all that exist. He placed therein firm mountain from above it, and He blessed it, and measured therein its sustenance for its dwelling in 4 days. All these 4 days were equal in the length of time for all those who ask about its creation. Then He rose far above towards the heaven when it was smoke, and said to it and to the earth, come both of you willingly or unwillingly to me. They both said, we come willingly, Ya Jalla Jalaluhu. Then He completed and finished from their creation as 7 days and 2 days, and as the 7 heavens in 2 days. And He made in each heaven its affair, and we adorn the nearest lowest heaven with stars, with lamps. Calls them lamps, but they are stars, to be an adornment, as well as to guard from the devils, by using them as missiles against the devils, such as the decree of Him Jalla Jalaluhu, the Almighty, the All-Knowing. But if they turn away, then say, O Muhammad, upon them, I have warned you of Sa'ika, a destruction, cry, torment, hit, a thunderbolt, like the one that overtook Ad in Thamud, Jalla Jalalu, punished them. When the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had finished his recitation, he said to Utbah, "This is my reply to your proposition. Now take what course you find best." Persecution by the Quraysh grew fiercer every day, and the suffering of the Prophet's disciples became unbearable. He had heard of the righteousness, tolerance, and hospitality of the neighboring Christian king of Abyssinia. He recommended such of his companions who were without protection to seek refuge in the kingdom of that pious king, Najashi Negosa. That was his name. Some 15, or this is his title. Some 15 of the unprotected adherents to or of Al-Islam promptly availed themselves of the advice and sailed to Abyssinia. Here they met with a very kind reception from Najashi. This is called the first hijrah, the first migration in the history of Al-Islam, and occurred in the 5th year of the Mekken period, meaning the mission of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the 5th year of his career, 615 AD. These immigrants were soon followed by many of their fellow sufferers until the number reached 83 men and 18 women. The hostile Quraysh, furious at the escape of their victims, sent deputies to the king of Abyssinia to request him to deliver up the refugees that they might be put to death for adjuring their old religion and embracing a new one. The king summoned the poor refugees and inquired of them what was the religion which they had adopted in preference to their old faith. Ja'far ibn Abu Talib, the cousin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, brother of commander of believers Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, was the spokesperson for the Muslimin. He spoke thus, saying, "O king, we were plunged in the depth of ignorance and barbarism. We adored idols. We lived in unchastity. We ate dead bodies and we spoke abominations. We disregarded every feeling of humanity and sense of duty towards our neighbors, and we knew no law but that of the strong. When Allah Jalla Jalaluhu raised among us a man of whose birth, truthfulness, honesty, and purity we were aware, he called us to profess the unity of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and taught us to associate nothing with him. He forbade us the worship of idols and enjoined us to speak the truth, to be faithful to our trust, to be merciful, and to regard the rights of neighbors. He forbade us to speak evil of the worship of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and not to return to the worship of idols. He forbade us, to speak evil of the worship of Allah. Not so, he forbade us from speaking evil worship of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and not to return to the worship of idols. In other words, not to associate with Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, not to categorize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala other than the way he has categorized himself. He also forbade and not to return to the worship of idols of wood and stone, and to abstain from evil, to offer prayers, to give alms, to observe the fast. We have believed in him, we have believed in him. We have accepted his teachings and his injunctions to worship Allah Jalla Jalaluhu alone and to associate nothing with him. Hence our people have persecuted us, trying to make us forego the worship of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu and return to the worship of idols of wood and stone and other abominations. They have tortured us and injured us until finding no safety among them. We have until we find no safety among them. So we have come to your kingdom, trusting you will give us protection against their persecutions. After hearing the above speech, the hospitable king ordered the deputies to return to their people in safety and not to interfere with their fugitives. Thus the immigrants passed the period of exile in peace and comfort, while the followers of the Prophet ﷺ sought safety in foreign lands against the persecution of their people. He continued his warning to the Quraysh more strenuously than ever. Again they came to him with offers of riches and honor, which he firmly and utterly refused. But they mocked at him and urged him for miracles to prove his mission. He used to answer, Allah Jalla Jalaluhu has not sent me to work wonders, He has sent me to preach to you. Thus disclaiming all power of wonder working, the Prophet ﷺ ever rested the truth of his divine mission upon his wise teaching. He addressed himself to the inner consciousness of man, to his common sense, and to his own better judgment. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I am only a human being like you. It is inspired in me that your God is one God. Therefore, take the straight path to Him with true faith and obedience to Him, and ask forgiveness of Him. And woe to the polytheists, those iblises, disbelievers associating with Allah Jalla Jalaluhu, those who do not, despite all the exhortations of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Quraysh persisted in asking him for a sign. They insisted that unless some sign be sent down to him from his Lord, they would not believe. The disbelievers used to ask, why has Muhammad not been sent with miracles like previous prophets? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam replied, because miracles had proven inadequate to convince Noah. Noah was sent with signs, and with what effect? Where was the lost tribe of Thamud? They had refused to receive the preaching of the Prophet Salih unless he showed them a sign and caused the rock to bring forth a living camel. He did what they asked. In scorn, they cut the camel's feet, and then daring the Prophet to fulfill his threats of judgment, were found dead, in their beds the next morning, stricken by the angel of the Lord Jalla Jalaluhu. There were some 17 places in the Quran in which the Prophet ﷺ is challenged to work a sign, and he answers them all to the same or similar effect. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu has the power of working miracles and had not been believed. There were greater miracles in nature than any which could be wrought outside of it, brought outside of it, and the Quran itself was a great everlasting miracle. The Quran, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to assert to the disbelievers, is a book of blessings, which is a warning for the whole world. It is a complete guidance and explains everything necessary. It is a reminder of what is imprinted on human nature and is free from every discrepancy and from error and falsehood. It is a book of true guidance and a light to all. As to the sacred idol so much honored and esteemed by the pagan Arabs, the Prophet openly recited, they are names which you have named, you and your fathers, for which Allah Jalla Jalaluhu has sent you no authority whatsoever to do. Quran, Surah number 53, ayah number 23. Inshallah, we will end this one here on page number 383. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك وتبارك اسم ربك وتعالى جدك ولا إله غيرك ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.